The bedroom mirror reflected our tangled bodies until I saw her slip the vial into my husband's drink. That's when I knew tonight's performance needed a brand new ending. Welcome to today's story, but before we begin, I'd love your help in reaching 1,000 subscribers soon. Your support fuels these twisted tales, and I can't wait to bring you more. Thank you truly. Now, let's dive into tonight's decadent nightmare. Picture this, a Manhattan penthouse at 3 a.m. The air smells like expensive bourbon and betrayal. A wife watches her husband's hand cling to another woman's waist, the same fingers that once slid a wedding ring onto hers. But here's the twist. She orchestrated this entire scene. The real question isn't who's sleeping with whom. It's who's playing whom. Stick around. The devil's in the details. The whiskey in my glass swirled like liquid amber, catching the dim glow of Manhattan's skyline through the penthouse windows. Across the room, Liam, my husband of 7 years, leaned against the grand piano, his tailored suit jacket discarded, sleeves rolled to reveal the tattoo I traced with my tongue last summer in Santorini. "You're staring, Sophia." His voice was a low hum, barely audible over the jazz record spinning in the corner. I let my silk robe slip an inch off my shoulder. "And you've been pretending not to watch me all night." The air between us crackled. We'd played this game before, the lingering touches at charity galas. The whispered dares during board meetings. He was CEO. I was the Nepo wife the tabloids loved to hate. But tonight the rules were about to change. I finished my drink, the crystal glass clinking as I set it down. "What if I told you I invited someone else to join us?" His fingers froze mid-sip. "Who?" The elevator dinged in the distance. The sharp click-click-click of Valentina's Louboutins against the penthouse marble echoed like a metronome counting down to something inevitable. Each step was precision itself, the trained grace of a principal dancer at Lincoln Center, the deliberate sway of hips that had graced the covers of Vogue and Vanity Fair. She paused just inside the doorway, one manicured hand resting against the frame, her crimson Alexander McQueen dress cutting through the dim lighting like a wound. Valentina, my husband's former protégée, is almost mistake, the one whose name still made his jaw tense whenever it came up at donor galas. Liam's grip on my waist tightened to the point of pain. "You didn't mention it'd be her," he growled, his breath hot against my ear. The scotch on his tongue, Macallan 25 neat, was familiar, but the edge in his voice wasn't. I turned just enough to brush my lips against his stubble. "You didn't ask." Valentina's perfume, Fracas by Robert Pichouet. Jasmine and tuberose with something darker underneath, rolled through the room ahead of her. The scent was a weapon. I knew it well. I'd worn it myself the night I'd first seduced Liam at that awful Hamptons charity auction. Sophia promised me a performance. Her voice was smoke and honey, the kind that clung to your skin. She circled us like a panther assessing prey, her fingers trailing along the back of the Chesterfield sofa, the grand piano, finally coming to rest on Liam's Brioni tie. "Though I must say, Mr. Blackwood, you're underdressed for the occasion." With a sharp tug, she yanked him into a kiss so fierce his wedding band scraped the piano keys. A discordant clang that made my pulse jump. I watched, martini glass dangling from my fingertips as Liam's hands, those same hands that had signed billion-dollar mergers and soothed my migraines, curled into fists at his sides. Not pushing her away. Not pulling her closer. Just frozen. This wasn't jealousy. Jealousy was for insecure wives and petty lovers. What burned in my throat was something far more primal. Hunger. The kind that came from watching a man who'd spent 7 years thinking he knew every inch of your body realize for the first time that he didn't. Valentina broke the kiss with a laugh, her teeth flashing white against her blood-dark lipstick. "Still the same technique," she murmured, thumb wiping a smudge of it from Liam's mouth. "All power, no finesse." The dig was deliberate. I remembered Liam mentioning years ago, drunk on Burgundy after the Met Gala, how Valentina had accused him of dancing like a banker during her audition. Funny. I set my glass down with a clink. He never had that problem with me. Valentina's gaze slid to me, and for the first time I saw it, the crack in her porcelain demeanor. The way her left pinky twitched, just once against Liam's chest. "Tell me you noticed," I willed him silently. "Tell me you remember." As I certainly did. That tell was why she'd lost the lead in Swan Lake 3 years ago. Why the Times Review had called her Odile technically flawless but emotionally sterile. And why, as she reached for the champagne bucket, Her sleeve rode up just enough to reveal the faint scar along her wrist, the one Liam's lawyers had paid 6 figures to keep out of page 6. The room hummed with unsaid things. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked toward midnight. Somewhere below us, Manhattan pulsed like a living thing. And then, I brought a gift. Valentina reached into her clutch and pulled out a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle 23, its wax seal unbroken. Liam's breath hitched. I didn't need to look at him to know why. That was our bottle. The one we'd bought at auction after his first IPO. The one I promised we'd open when he finally admitted what happened with Valentina in 2018. Her smile was knife-sharp. Shall we? The crystal tumbler caught the dim light as I poured 3 fingers of Pappy Van Winkle into Valentina's glass, the bourbon's amber glow matching the dangerous glint in her eyes. Ice cubes cracked like breaking bones in the silence. Ground rules, I said, my voice smooth as the silk of my robe. No names. No tomorrow. Just tonight. The words hung between us. More binding than any contract Liam had ever signed at Blackwood Capital. His laugh was dark whiskey and smoke. Since when do you follow rules, Sophia? His fingers traced the scar on his left bicep, the one Valentina's teeth had left during their last pas de deux 5 years ago. I'd always pretended not to notice. Valentina's crimson nails slid a velvet box across the bar, the same shade as the dress pooling around her thighs. Your turn to watch, Mr. Blackwood. When she flipped the lid, the black satin blindfold inside bore delicate embroidery. Poor toy mon demon in gold thread. Liam's breath hitched. I remembered that French phrase from the note he'd left on my pillow our first anniversary. The game unfolded in cruel, beautiful vignettes. 1. The first move. Valentina's teeth sank into my inner thigh with the precision of a prima ballerina hitting her mark. Liam's knuckles bleached white against the armrest, veins mapping his restraint like subway lines under pale skin. Through the pain-pleasure haze, I noticed his wedding band catching light, the platinum one I'd chosen to replace Valentina's suggested gold. 2. The piano incident. When Liam finally snapped, pinning Valentina against the Steinway. My nails scraped the lid hard enough to leave trails in the polished ebony. The discordant symphony of moans and protesting strings filled the penthouse. Valentina arched into him, whispering something in French that made his hips stutter. I recognized the phrase from Swan Lake's Scorodil's seduction line. 3. The mirror room. I led them to the hidden dance studio, where floor-to-ceiling mirrors multiplied our reflections into infinity. Valentina used a point shoe ribbon to bind Liam's wrists to the bar. Her movements practiced like she'd imagined this moment through 100 rehearsals. Pas de trois, she purred, licking bourbon from his collarbone. The mirrors showed me what Liam couldn't see, her fingers crossing behind her back, her old ballet school tell for lying. 4. The pearl necklace. When Valentina's teeth broke the strand of my Mikimoto pearls, the beads scattered like hailstones across hardwood. One rolled into the ventilation grate. I'd retrieve it tomorrow as insurance. Liam barely noticed, too busy watching Valentina's tongue chase, a droplet of sweat down my spine. His pupils had swallowed all the blue in his eyes, leaving only hungry black. 5. The turning point. They both turned to me then, twin expressions of desperate want. And I realized with electric clarity, the blindfold was never for Liam. It was my test. I palmed the velvet box from the bar and smiled. Change of plans. Valentina's smirk faltered when I tied the blindfold around my own eyes. Let them think this was surrender. The darkness heightened every sound, the rustle of fabric. Liam's sharp inhale when Valentina guided his hand somewhere illicit, the wet click of lips parting. But they forgot, I knew this penthouse better than my own heartbeat. My fingers found the hidden panel near the baseboard, activating the security system's silent recording feature. The tiny red light beneath the smoke detector winked at me like an accomplice. Still in control? Liam's voice came from my left, rough with want. I let the silk caress my cheeks as I smiled. Darling, I wrote the rules. Somewhere beyond the black satin, a pearl rolled into shadow, and the game entered its second act. The digital clock on Liam's Piaget watch glowed 3:07 a.m. when I noticed the first crack in our carefully constructed fantasy. Valentina's head lolled against his shoulder like a broken marionette. Her signature, Black Widow, lipstick smeared across his collarbone in Rorschach patterns that looked disturbingly like bloodstains. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan's skyline had dissolved into a watercolor blur of insomnia and neon. Tell me this wasn't your plan all along, Liam murmured. His thumb brushed my wedding ring with that particular circular motion he reserved for boardroom lies and apologies he didn't mean. The platinum band felt suddenly heavy, its engraved infinity symbol biting into my skin. I watched a drop of sweat trace the new scar on Valentina's ribcage, the one she'd gotten during last month's performance of Giselle. My mind flashed to the encrypted emails I'd intercepted, sent from an IP address matching Lincoln Center's administrative office. The pair of third-row ballet tickets left conspicuously on Liam's desk, still smelling of Valentina's fracas perfume. The way she'd moaned Sophia with theatrical emphasis while writing him 20 minutes ago. Plans are boring, darling. I swirled the melting ice in my bourbon, watching the cubes fracture. But you already knew that when you had her sign the NDA last spring. Liam's fingers stilled on my ring. Valentina's breathing hitched just enough to confirm my suspicion. The moment shattered when Liam's phone buzzed against the court's countertop. The screen flashed J. Blackwell emergency board vote. But the contact photo showed our Hamptons beach house, the same angle as the frame shot in Valentina's dressing room. Valentina stretched like a panther waking from sedation, her Louboutin dangling precariously from one toe. I'll call a cab. The way her fingers lingered on Liam's thigh suggested she knew exactly where the Uber app was on his phone. No. My hand shot out, nails digging into the delicate blue veins of her wrist. Stay. The diamond of my engagement ring drew a bead of blood that pooled against her Russian manicure. The look they exchanged could have powered all 5 boroughs. It wasn't lust. It was something far more dangerous: recognition. The same charged silence that fills auction rooms before the final bid on a contested masterpiece. Valentina's laugh was all throat as she reached for the Pappy Van Winkle. Someone's possessive tonight. She poured 3 fingers into Liam's abandoned glass, the liquor splashing over the rim like a warning. Funny how you only want what you think someone else has. I moved to the balcony, letting the midnight wind steal my retort. From this height, Central Park looked like a Rembrandt painting, all inky shadows and deceptive calm. The glass door hissed shut behind me, then immediately reopened. Here. Valentina pressed the bourbon into my hand, her bare shoulder brushing mine. Up close, I could see the foundation caking over the needle marks on her inner arm. You forgot your drink, Mrs. Blackwood. She emphasized the name like it was a costume I'd stolen. Through the glass, Liam was typing furiously on his phone, his brow furrowed in that particular way that meant trouble. The last time I'd seen that expression was when the SEC launched their investigation into Blackwell Capital. Valentina's fingers crept up my bare arm. He's lying about the board meeting, she whispered, her breath warm with expensive alcohol. That text came from James. Her teeth grazed my earlobe. And we both know what he wants from your husband. The balcony door slid open again. Liam's silhouette framed the light, his voice tight. Sophia, we need to. He froze at the sight of Valentina's lips hovering over my pulse point. In that suspended second, 3 things became clear. 1. Valentina knew more about Liam's business than I did. 2. The emergency was almost certainly staged. 3. None of us were following the rules anymore. The city lights blurred again. But this time it wasn't from exhaustion or alcohol. It was the exhilarating, terrifying realization that the game had changed, and I might not be the one controlling the board. The first razor-thin slice of dawn cut through the penthouse, illuminating the battlefield of our night, a champagne flute impaled on the Steinway's high C. Valentina's crimson La Perla thong dangling from the baccarat chandelier. Liam's $8,000 Tom Ford tuxedo shirt floating in the infinity pool like a corpse. I slipped from the sweat-damp sheets, my bare feet avoiding the broken pearl necklace scattered across the marble, $300,000 in Mikimoto tears, each one perfectly documenting where we'd fallen apart. The mirror in the entryway showed me what I'd become. Mascara bleeding into crow's feet I didn't remember earning, bite marks blooming like dark roses along my collarbone, lips swollen with secrets. My reflection didn't just smirk, it laughed silently, showing teeth sharpened by 5 years of Manhattan power lunches. Liam's breathing remained deliberately even behind me. His sleeping arm draped over Valentina's waist in that possessive curl I recognized from every business trip photo with female associates. The vein in his temple pulsed at 72 BPM. His lying rhythm. Valentina's ballet-toned calves twitched in fake REM sleep, her left pinky finger extended just so. Our shared tell. She's awake too. The vibration came from beneath the chaise. where Valentina's Judith Lieber clutch lay spilled open like a gutted fish. Not her phone, the burner I'd watched her tuck into her stocking during Act 3 last night. The screen glowed. Enjoyed the show. Let's discuss your next audition. V. The contact was blocked, but the timestamp matched the exact minute Liam had accidentally answered his BlackBerry during the finale. Outside, a delivery van idled with Lincoln Center stagehands union decals too clean for actual stagehands. I moved soundlessly to Liam's briefcase, the Hermes lock picking easier than his iPhone passcode. The merger docs were still there, but now with fresh annotations in that too-perfect penmanship I'd seen on Valentina's fan letters. Section 12.3 All shares revert to JB. Upon spousal infidelity, see video evidence, timestamp 3:17. My stomach dropped to my Louboutins. 3:17 a.m. When Liam had whispered, "I'll never love her like you," while inside Valentina. The camera must have been in the Klimt reproduction above the bed, its gilded frame suddenly obvious as a two-way mirror. Valentina's clutch yielded better treasures. A Swissair ticket to Zurich, today, 11 a.m. A vial of something labeled Midnight Ballet in Cyrillic. My own Cartier wedding band. Stolen from my vanity. The final joke came when I lifted her right hand, the ring finger bare. She'd switched our rings. Somewhere in this penthouse, Valentina's DNA was now under my name, and my fingerprints on her escape plan. The balcony doors hissed open without my touching them. Outside, the city stretched awake, indifferent to our little drama. The text notification had changed. P.S. Check the safe behind the Monet. You'll want to see the casting footage. Inside the waterproof case I'd hidden behind the water lilies, a USB drive containing every security feed from our homes, offices, and that suite at the Mark we'd used last winter. Each file labeled with dates and heart rates. Someone had been monitoring our vitals along with our betrayals. The last clip showed Liam and Valentina in this very bedroom 3 nights ago, rehearsing their lines like a Broadway show. "She'll never suspect the merger's just cover," Liam said off camera, adjusting his tie. "Once Sophia signs those papers, we disappear." Valentina's laugh was all teeth. "And when they find her body in the East River with my jewelry on it." She held up a perfect replica of my signature chopard earrings. Well, tragedies happen. I pocketed the drive just as silk sheets rustled behind me. Liam's sleepy voice called, "Darling? Come back to bed." The way his fingers drummed against the headboard, Morse code for abort mission, told me everything. At the minibar, I poured 3 fingers of the Pappy Van Winkle we'd been saving for our 10th anniversary. The first sip burned away the last traces of doubt. Game on indeed. They say 3's a crowd, but you haven't seen our encore. Smash subscribe for the finale even the devil wouldn't predict. So, what's your verdict? Was this a story of lust, revenge, or cold-blooded strategy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear every wild theory, every gasp-worthy prediction. Did Sophia win? Or was she playing right into someone else's hands? Hit that like button if you're addicted to the drama, smash subscribe because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Thank you for diving into this sinful little world with me. Until the next twisted tale, stay dangerous.